Welcome back to week 5 of Are You Ready for a Podcast, the official podcast of Are You Ready for Some Football, Fantasy Football League. Um, I played the high number one ranked scorer, and Parker won with the 10th most points in the league. So it was a bit of a freaky Friday situation going on this week for the podcast. Parker, how's it going?
It's going a lot better. Getting the lucky win, the Joe style win, is a nice change of pace from what I'm used to. Although this is the second straight year that I've gotten a somewhat lucky win against Nick on Monday night in week 4, so maybe it's actually not that new of a thing.
I didn't realize that was week 4, but yeah, I think that was kind of a season saving win for you. So the recap of last week is that Morgan beat me 159-92, blew me out. He was the leading scorer in the league. The premier matchup in the league was Hunter and Zach, and Zach kind of took it to Hunter a little bit, 140 to 111. Hunter repeatedly benching Devon Achane keeps coming back to bite him. Wouldn't have affected this matchup, but um, would have helped his score.
It wouldn't have
So,
affected the last matchup either because he won that one, so wouldn't have changed any outcomes yet.
oh,
But
we'll get, if it gets to end of the season with the second tiebreaker with points scored, that might end up mattering. Um, then Colin beat Thomas, ended Thomas's undefeated regular season. So me, Hunter, and Thomas all lost. So we now have no more undefeated teams. Um, Grant blew out Ben 114-72. Ben's team is looking very rough right now at dropping to 0-4. And then and then before your matchup, Dan beat Austin. Kind of that was a discussion point last week, which Dan's misfortune and Austin's fortune to get that win last week. So Dan and Austin pull into a tie at both 1 and 3, and then you pull out the season saving win on Monday night. DK Metcalf needed like 14 points, scored a touchdown early, but had horrible game script to and really did not do anything in the second half. And you barely squeaked by Nick with the score of 81-78. So Nick stays at 0-4, and you improved to 2-2. Our league standings now, we have 6 teams at 3-1. That'd be Morgan, Hunter, myself, Thomas, Colin, and Grant. 2 teams at 2-2, which are Zach and Parker. A couple teams at 1-3, which are Austin and Dan, who matched up last week, and then Ben and Nick bringing up the rear at 0-4. So, Parker, what is your biggest takeaway from kind of the league this week?
my biggest takeaway is actually about Colin. The winningest team since we moved to the auction draft, and we kind of thought he was having a down year. But this was a big win against Thomas. And then I think really just looking at the players on his roster, his team is on the upward swing for sure. A lot of guys that we really like. He could have formidable running backs with Bijan, DeAndre Swift, and David Montgomery. And then Joe Burrow has been bad so far, but if Joe Burrow could turn it around, he's got a complete team. And yeah, I think Colin could be for real. This is a huge week for him.
Yeah, I really like Colin's team. I think the Eagles and Lions running back situations have massively worked out in his favor. Um, the Aaron Rodgers injury was really tough for him with Garrett Wilson, but Nico Collins, he discovered Nico Collins, and he's been huge. So yeah, Collins' team does look pretty complete right now. Um, completed the at kind of the running back and receiver. His onesie positions are he kind of drafted for upside, and 2 guys that were very well liked preseason who are having rough starts of the year with Burrow and Darren Waller. But my takeaway, I think there's a clear top 3. I think Colin is in that 4 spot, but I think there's still a gap from him to the top 3, which, I mean, I guess this will transition us into the power rankings. I'm not going to spoil what order, but it's Morgan, Hunter, and Zach. And for me is my top 3. I think Hunter and Morgan have been atop the league standings all year. Hunter just has built ridiculous running back depth. Morgan has the 2 safest receivers in fantasy, and now Zach has unbelievable wide receiver depth, along with Tua and along with picking up Kyren Williams, which is still, I think, him and Achane are the 2 transactions of the year, pickups of the year. So I think those teams just are so clearly ahead of everybody. So Morgan, for Morgan's trade value isn't as good as the other two because he doesn't have quite the depth that the other two have. But McCaffrey and Jefferson do a bit of heavy lifting there, and he just hasn't gotten a bad performance from either one of them this year. And yeah, I think they're the two best players in fantasy. And so if they're both on your team healthy, then that'll put you in the top three. And then Morgan and or Zach and Hunter's teams, top to bottom, seem pretty stacked. So those are my top three right now. And barring injuries, I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Yeah, I agree. I like that take. Three teams have been at the top of the power rankings now for a few weeks. I had them last weekend, this week, and yeah, I agree with you. Good take.
Yeah. So that'll transition us to our power ranking. So I'll read through mine really quick. So I do have the top three. My order, actually, I moved Zach to number one. I've been lower on Zach because he got off to the 0-2 start. I moved him all the way up from 5 to 1. I moved Hunter down a spot to 2. I kept Morgan at 3. Colin moves up to 4. We talked about Colin. I moved myself down to 5. I talked about it last week when I solo hosted of, we'll see who is a top 3 team between me and Morgan. Clearly that ended up being Morgan. I moved you up to 6. You squeaked out a win, but you're getting Cooper Kupp back, and I still think your team has pretty good depth. Thomas moved down to 7. Just hasn't gotten enough out of his stars and scrubs guys, but he's 3-1. So 3-1 with not getting really anything or what you expected from Eckler and Chase. It's pretty damn good. Grant moved down to 8. I think he's the worst 3-1 team. Dan is at 9. I think Dan seems really good, and he's just gotten off to the unfortunate start, but he's 1-3 now, so we'll see if he can turn it around. Austin down to 1-3. He is getting, or looks like he's getting Jonathan Taylor back, so that'll be a big boost to his locker room. I'm sure he's excited for that, and as long as Jonathan Taylor's not causing any problems. And then the 2-0-4 teams, I've been a little bit ahead of Nick again. I've had Nick in the last for like 3 weeks now. Ben just a little bit more depth than Nick. Neither team I like at all. And I called Nick done. I'm willing to call Ben done also. I don't think Ben's making the playoffs. So those two teams are at 0-2 or 0-4. Yeah, so that's my power rankings.
All right, I can see mine. We have actually we don't agree on anyone's ranking, but we have very similar, I would say, buckets, very similar sort of tiers. So I have Hunter at 1, Morgan at 2, Zach at 3. Same way I had them actually I think I had Zach 2 last week. So flip Zach and Morgan, but otherwise similar to last week. And then oh no, I had you 2 last week. So anyway, we have the same top 3. Hunter, the Morgan, and Zach for me. What?
You weren't on the podcast last week.
I know, I sent him in the group meet. And then I have you at 4, Thomas at 5, Colin at 6, Grant at 7. So that's the 6-3-1 teams plus Zach. And then I have me at 8. I've got Ben up at 9, Dan at 10, Austin at 11, Nick at 12. Not too much movement for me over the last couple of weeks. What I guess what strikes you about the rankings? What do you want to discuss?
I don't know. I moved Colin up a lot. I think I was really impressed by. Obviously, he had the terrible week against Austin, but yeah, like we've discussed Colin some. His team he's seemed to find 3 really good values with Swift, Montgomery, and Nico Collins in the draft. And those guys are like way overperforming. I think. Other than that, I think Grant and Thomas is interesting. At 7 and 8, I think. Grant's team is, they made the big, Grant did make the big trade with Nick. I don't think either of us loved what Grant got out of it. And so, yeah, I don't know. Grant's team, he started 2-1. He won last week. He got to play Ben, but I still don't love where his team's at. He finally got a good Derrick Henry game. But yeah, so other than that, I do think Dan is primed to make a run. I think at 1-3, I think you can get, you need 7 to get to be in playoff contention. So if Dan can finish the year off 7-4 or 6-4, I think that's pretty doable. But yeah, I don't know other than that.
Yeah, I guess I sort of agree with you. I like the trade a little bit more for Nick. I think it's a sort of buy low opportunity that's good for him with his team having struggled thus far. For Grant, sorry, the dog's making noise. I understand what he's doing. He felt like he had the running back depth to sacrifice a running back, and he kind of loads up with wide receivers, although Amari Cooper and DK Metcalf are on bye. But now he's kind of really relying on Derrick Henry, Miles Sanders to stay healthy, because if Jonathan Taylor comes back, there's really he's only 2 running backs. So he's going to need to build some depth at that position. But I sort of get it for him as well. I think he's kind of taking a little bit safer route with his team having a good record. But I do have him as the 1-3-1 team outside of my top 6. And then talking about the bottom of the rankings, the Ben and Dan thing for me is maybe a little bit interesting. I've got Ben at 9. I don't know. I think he's got really solid depth. I mean, his team the problem is the ceiling. I don't know where he gets the huge games from, but he's just got enough solid players that I think he's going to get some wins throughout the middle of the season when people are on buys. I mean, his whole bench is like guys that he can start if he needs to. So I think that sort of helps him out. The record is obviously going to be an issue at 0-4, but I just don't know what Dan's doing. I don't, the Dan having him behind Ben at 10. I just don't know. I don't see him making a run. I don't trust Dan to make the moves to operate here. He's got Puka, who's been really good, but may lose some value with Kupp coming back. Michael Thomas is just dust, and that's wide receiver 2. And I just don't think in a league that rewards receptions, building around 5 running backs makes a lot of sense. So he's really got nothing at wide receiver. He's only got 3 on the roster. The third one's Josh Reynolds, who's basically useless. So yeah, he's got to capitalize on this running back value at some point, and I don't know if he's going to. So if he doesn't, I think that his team is going to miss the playoffs. I don't think he's going to make big weeks with the lineup as he's currently got it. So I understand you having him at 9, but I think that's sort of assuming that he makes a move or two. And so far, he hasn't shown much interest in doing that.
I do always assume he's going to make a move. I mean, just talking about him and Ben, I think a trade between them would make sense. The thing with Ben is just like his line of construction makes absolutely no sense. And again, you're assuming he makes a move. I feel like, but he's got 3 again, and they're fine bye week fill-ins, but he's got 3 wide receivers on his bench who, I mean, he's just got like after Devontae Smith, he just has 6 receivers who are the same guy. Like he has Michael Pittman, DJ Moore, George Pickens, DeAndre Hopkins, and both Commanders receivers are they're all the same like tier of guy. So like I don't understand what you're doing with 6 guys.
Yeah, they're all better than Dan's second receiver.
Sure, but like you can only play 3 of them. 3 of the
I would
6.
just rather have a bunch of receivers that you're shuffling in based on matchups than a bunch of running backs that you're doing that for.
Well, I would rather have running back depth than receiver depth, but especially when it's like that, it's not like Zach's receiver depth. It's like a bunch of like mid guys, and like Najee Harris sucks. That's his number 1 running back. He picked up Jaleel McLaughlin, who is like an injury filling for Javonte, or I guess he has Javonte. So he has a 1.5 of the Broncos running backs. So like, congrats on that, I guess. He has a much worse tight end than Dan. He's got a better quarterback, but like, I don't know. I would much rather have Dan's running back depth. Like Dan has good running backs and Puka, and that is like, and like Puka is like the difference between Devontae and Puka is like not much to me. And yeah, and so I would rather have Dan's running backs than Ben's receivers outside of that, and Kelsey. Like I don't know, Dan pretty clearly is better than to me. Like I have Ben and Nick like clearly in their own tier below. Like now that Jonathan Taylor's back, or looks like he's back for Austin, I kind of like I'm fine with Austin's team. Like I think Ben and Nick's teams are like clearly the worst.
Yeah, Arrow's pointing out for Austin for sure. All right, and then I don't know. Is there anything else that sticks out to you from the power rankings? You want to keep moving on?
No, I think we can keep moving on. Yeah, I think that's more discussion than we've had, and I feel like we're more debate over a 1-3 and 0-4 team than we've ever had before.
That is a fair point. All right, well we'll be back on the other side of the break with a guest interview for the first time this year.
All right. We are now joined by our first guest of the year. Our first guest of the year was also one of our 2 last guests of last year, which is Morgan. We ended last season's podcast talking with Morgan and Zach, and so our first guest of this year, I think it's appropriately Morgan, has gotten off to a rip-roaring 3-1 start, leads the league in scoring, which puts him number one in the standings, I think by default, as a tiebreaker. So Morgan, just what are the general vibes on after winning championship number 2 last year? What are the vibes on for the 2023 season?
Yeah, how's the McGritty's locker room?
Look, they're pretty high right now. I mean, I can't really. I was coming in like even if I did bad this year, it's like all right, I got my second championship, so I couldn't be. Even if I like got last, be like, hey, kind of keep the tradition of either being first or last, kind of, But it's been going pretty well. My team's looking pretty good. I don't really like my flexes or literally anyone on my bench, but when you have the number one running back and wide receiver, usually I can probably pull off most weeks, I'd say. But yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think that would transition me. Also, Morgan, who's played me and Parker the last 2 weeks, lost to Parker and then beat me by a good bit. But we can kind of transition into that. You have Justin Jefferson and Christian McCaffrey. You paid 69 for each of them, I think. So like what was your reasoning, or what was the logic between getting those two in the draft?
I just kind of wanted to go this year like big. I want to get two just like start like studs, and I wasn't really planning on getting both of those. Just like I thought they were potentially going to go higher than 69, like both of them. So I was kind of just bidding up, and then like I wasn't really mad, I guess, when I got both of them. But I'd kind of in a few other leagues, or the other league I did auction too. I also tried to kind of do the same thing, just get like stars and stuff. Granted, I got Jamar Chase, Cooper Kupp in that one, so it didn't really go as well at the moment. But yeah, I don't know. I was, as long as they stay healthy, I'm fine. Obviously, if they don't, then I'm kind of screwed. But hopefully, I can, get to where I need to be before any of that happens. But they've both been playing crazy at the moment. So yeah, it's been pretty nice. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that strategy, like me and Parker are both pretty in favor of it. Last year Parker did it, didn't work out as well with Jonathan Taylor and Kupp getting hurt, but yeah, I think in general we're both pretty in favor of it, especially with those two. Like I think those two, McCaffrey when healthy and Jefferson, those are just the two highest floor guys in like the last like several years of fantasy. I guess like 2021 Cooper Kupp, but he got
and I got pretty lucky too. Kenneth Walker's been pretty good again this year. He scored a lot of touchdowns. And then obviously I got kind of unlucky with Justin Fields. I thought he was going to be a little bit better running the ball. So if he
we'll see. Maybe he can play the Broncos every week. We'll see.
Yeah, if he played like that, if he plays like he played last week when I played you every week, then I'm gonna be sitting pretty with those four. They can probably, my floor is like 90 with those four, and then
yeah, I think the benefit of having Jefferson and McCaffrey is like you have a little bit of time to figure out your positions, and obviously Kenneth Walker. So you have, two running back ones, you have the wide receiver one, and then so you have a little bit of time to figure out everything else. Parker, do you have anything?
Yeah, I like the roster construction. I've kind of mentioned it in the past. I do think the depth is going to be a real challenge. Like this week, you're missing the only real. I mean, you got Elijah Moore and Kenneth Walker on bye, and you got Jaden Reed, Michael Wilson, and Tajay Spears in the lineup. So we're kind of, we're sort of scraping the barrel already, and we've got two guys on bye that are not even your main two. So I think the depth is concerning. But as I've said in the past, building your team like this just makes the ceiling so high because you already have the like number one, number two guys. You just have to hit on somebody somewhere else, pick up a free agent or have one of the guys you drafted hit, and then the team's all of a sudden got three studs and it's going to be awesome. So I like the roster construction. I understand the philosophy behind it. It can be a little bit high risk, high reward, but you're kind of playing with house money. I mean, you won last year. So I mean, I guess you really are playing with house money because your entry fees are covered for the next 12 years. So why not? I like it. I think it's a good move. I guess going forward, do you have a plan to solidify the bottom end of the team, or are you just gonna take it week to week and work the waivers? Or are you gonna make some trades? What's the plan? What's the biggest concern, and how are we gonna address it? That's what
I was thinking about some trades and stuff, but it's so hard to like think of like the value, right? Because if I were to trade, let's say one of McCaffrey or like Justin Jefferson's, like what I would be asking from people, a lot of people would probably not want to give me, but it's like to give them up is like I'm gonna need a hefty
Yeah,
haul.
you would need like yeah.
I need like a RB1 and RB2 and like a wide receiver 2 or some shit. Like I need like 3. I would probably need like a 1 for 3 for me, or at least 2 like maybe like a running back 1 like a wide receiver 2 or something, but like a stable. It's just hard because it's like they're so good that it's like sometimes 2 of the players I might get aren't going to score as much as they score every week. It's like, but it would give me a little more depth because obviously Drake London, Falcons suck. And then like Elijah Moore gets like a lot of targets, but sometimes he gets a negative 20-yard run. So
Yeah, but the poor guys have to throw it to him 10 yards in the backfield. Okay,
this week he got a negative 20-yard run just by himself. He just ran backwards 20 yards.
Yeah, that was funny.
I was just like, okay. It's like fuck.
Um,
I'm hoping a few of those guys pan out. I like Michael Wilson. I saw what he's been doing. Looks like he's getting a little more targets and stuff. Maybe when Kyler comes back, he might be even better. Who knows?
You just gotta keep throwing darts.
That's why. Yeah, the thing is, I keep trying to get some people waivers, and then like I bid like 36, and then it's like Ben comes out of nowhere at 38. I'm like, come on, dude, I can't win. And he started putting more money, I guess.
you just gotta send on somebody, pick somebody, and just.
Yeah, I should have. There's
Go with it.
I don't remember who I tried for this week, but like
What
The Doyle McLaughlin.
yeah, I threw like
Yeah.
35 and
what about the rest of the league? Looking around, what do you think? What's the landscape? Who's on your radar? Who's catching your eye? What are the teams to watch?
I mean, even though I just beat Joe, I think Joe's team's still good. He just had, I mean, he kind of got unlucky. I mean, my team just kind of went off, and his team.
I was
Is
like
running-
9th in scoring. I didn't deserve to win.
Yeah,
no,
I mean,
no, but like your running backs, like Tyreek Hill had 8 points, like,
yeah, he's got Tyreek and Devontae, so it's sort of the same thing. Like
and
those
they
guys
had
can just explode, and then if you get anything else,
yeah, and you got 0 from Addison, like that, like he got like he just like. I mean, it didn't help that that Kirk Cousins was kind of just like ass for most of the game. Obviously Hunter. I think Hunter is going to throttle me this week. So, who else? I mean, Colin's team hasn't looked too bad. He's been scoring a lot of points. Everyone else is kind of like it. Kind of feels like anyone, but I feel like Hunter seems like clearly the best. But then it feels like a lot of people could like any week. Like last week, Parker scored a shit ton on me, and then this week scored like barely beat Nick in a lucky ass.
yeah, nice little 81-point win.
Yeah, what'd you score last week on me? It was like 130 or something, right? Some shit.
It wasn't that much. I was like 115, maybe. I don't know. I think my highest score was still week 2 when I lost.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, 116. I guess but you could have. You got.
I could have. My 2 guys on Monday night just sucked ass.
Yeah, like you should have probably scored at least like 125 at least.
Yeah.
So it's like, I feel like any week someone could come in and score a ton of points. Well, maybe not Ben or Austin's teams. They're a little bit in right at the moment. Austin's team could, if anyone gets healthy and if his running back comes back and plays. And I don't really know how I feel about the Kamara trade, but the Saints kind of suck. So maybe it wasn't terrible. I don't know.
Well, if he's gonna get 13 receptions a game, then
I mean, yeah, true.
fine.
I mean, that is true. I guess the dump off King, Derek Carr. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of anyone. I think anyone could come out of nowhere. Just like you, Parker, getting lucky. Gotta get those wins somehow.
Yeah. Well, if you ever do want to trade Jefferson and McCaffrey, Hunter is prepared to offer you like Kenneth Gainwell and Gabe Davis or something. So,
Oh yeah. He's willing to give me his star studs on his team for that.
yeah. So we'll get to the picks. I don't know where Parker went. I think he's dealing with Beignet. So anyway, we'll start with the first pick and then hopefully Parker. There he is. So we'll start with the first match of the week. I believe. So it looks like it's Colin. Colin has gotten a fair amount of talk in this episode. Colin is the projected highest score of the week this upcoming week. He's playing Grant, a matchup of 3-1 teams. The projection is 119 to 92 for in favor of Colin. So because Parker was complaining 2 weeks ago about me always going first, we'll let Parker go first on a couple of these.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I think the scoreboard favors Colin. Grant just traded for a bunch of guys on bye, or the projections favor Colin. We got Grant's out here starting Josh Dobbs as his quarterback, which
Drop Trevor Lawrence.
drop Trevor Lawrence. So it appears to be Russell Wilson and Josh Dobbs now. And he's got Debo Samuel and Miles Sanders both questionable. So it really favors Colin. I guess it's not a tough one, as I said at the beginning. I got to go Colin here. This is a much better spot for him. He's only got Chris Godwin on bye. Grant just traded some guys to sort of plan for the future, but sort of is sacrificing this week. And why not? Colin's projected 120. I don't blame him. So yeah, I'm going Colin. Not a tough one.
Morgan,
You know what? I'm gonna take the under this game. I don't. I think
total is 211.
I think Grant is gonna score less as projected. And I think also Colin might score a little bit less. So I'm gonna go the under on this one. He could score more, but I'll take the under.
212 actually. Apologies. So if any of y'all listen to the fantasy footballers, which I know a couple of y'all do, and I have a thinking that I have a theory that other people do, but this is gonna be my almost upset of the week. I think this is just a sneaky spot for Grant. You can't count Grant out here. He has these weird weeks where his opponent just underperforms more than you think. Colin's team's looking really good, but so I'm going to take Colin to win, but I think this will be closer than the experts think. Like if we were still doing spreads, I would definitely take Grant to cover the spread.
Oh yeah, if we're doing spreads, so I would cover that. I mean, that's a massive spread right there.
Yeah.
Also, Grant's got two Panthers as well as Kendrick Bourne and then Zach Moss potentially as a backup in his lineup. So that's highly concerning.
Well, Miles Sanders has been okay this year.
Yeah, Miles Sanders.
Miles Sanders and DJ Chark. There's not gonna be that many points.
DJ Chark, I hate. I don't know what he was doing in Grant's lineup, but
I'd be rolling Jameson Williams out there too if Zach Moss ends up getting the bench.
Yeah, that was really more a pick of Grant's usual fantasy fortune. So we'll move on. We'll let Morgan start because this is our premier matchup of the week, a rematch of last year's highly dramatic championship game, in which Morgan defeated Hunter in week 18. Hunter will now be looking for revenge. He is projected a 115.8 to 99.4. So that is like 215 as the total. Morgan, what are your early thoughts here? I guess not early thoughts because we're recording this on Thursday.
I mean, I'm gonna take myself, but I don't feel comfortable taking myself. I have a feeling that he's coming out angry. He's pissed from last year. It wouldn't surprise me if his team dropped like 150 on me. Like it wouldn't surprise me one bit this week. So I would take myself, but not comfortably. I'm scared.
I'm gonna go with the over here. I think you give 215. I know you've obviously got your couple guys on bye, but you give me 215 with these two teams. I think that's a pretty easy over, and I don't think I've gone over for any matchup. I've been taking a bunch of unders this year, so I feel good about the over for the championship rematch.
I'm gonna take Hunter here. We always talk about how Hunter's a fraud, and that probably is true. But he's a fraud because he dominates the regular season and then chokes it away in the playoffs. And this is a revenge match. This is a regular season where Hunter thrives. This is honestly Hunter's Super Bowl here. So I'm gonna go Hunter.
That's a very fair and good argument.
Anyway, Justin Fields, when he drops 30 tonight, I'll feel a little better. He's probably gonna drop like 14, but hey.
Yeah, we're recording about an hour before Thursday Night Football, so things
might be ugly. Our next matchup is Dan and Nick. So I think this is I kind of think Nick's done. I think this would be a huge I think this is a loss Dan just can't have if he wants to continue to dig himself out of his 0-3 hole they started in. So I do think Nick's done for the year, but I think he can spoil Dan's season because if Dan drops this one, I think it'd be really tough for him. But I am going to take Dan. I think I'm just really out on Nick's team. Didn't make the big trade, but he is not going to have Kareem Hunt, not going to have Tyler Lockett. Dan just looks like he's without Geno, which is not a big deal because Jared Goff's better. So yeah, I think Dan's team is just much better top to bottom. We discussed Dan's team a bit in the power rankings and how I'm higher on them than Parker. So I will take Dan here.
I'm going Nick. I think I think this is a big spot for Nick. Like you said, it's win or go home. He's making trades to get the win. I like the aggressive moves, and I think he's got great matchups this week. We got Breece Hall against Denver. He's going to absolutely go nuts. Jordan Love against the Raiders, pair with Romeo Dobbs, due for a touchdown. Jalen Waddle against the Giants. They need to get him more involved. I like the matchups. I like going big on the trade market, and so I think Nick wins here.
I think, yeah, I'm gonna go with Nick as well. I think he's due, and I also think Dan, he's got some harsh matchups. Tony Paul against the 49ers, Puka against the Eagles. I think Kelsey will probably have a big game because the Vikings suck. But with having two Kansas City guys, you never know. Pacheco might not do anything. And James Conner, he had a few good games, but I could see him not doing as well, even against the Bengals. I don't think the defense is terrible, but
So you're not saying Nick's gonna win it. You're saying Dan's gonna lose it.
no, yes, yeah, I think that's what's gonna happen because the Saints suck too, and he's got Michael Thomas against the Patriots. Like he's got a bunch of not great matchups. And I think Nick has some more favorable ones. So I'm gonna go with I'm gonna take Nick.
I like Puka in this matchup. Big spot for Puka. I think this will probably be their last game without Cup. Last chance to kind of impress Stafford that he should be the number one. So
I mean, look,
dude.
I think
You
he's gonna have a
Cooper
hard
Kupp
game,
on
but
those cones?
he's still gonna score like 20-something points. It's just because he's gonna get targeted like 30 times. So,
I don't
but
think y'all saw. I don't think y'all watched the video of Cooper Kupp on the cones. Silky
Oh.
smooth.
Oh,
Cooper
man.
flying through some cones right now.
Cooper Kupp is not playing this week.
He's looking good against cones.
Can he run 20 yards?
I saw about 10 yards.
All right, well, that's usually all he needs.
bro, honestly, give me like a Cooper Cup at 50% over like 95% of the wide receivers that we're starting.
Yeah, I mean, if he's starting, even if he's on a snap count, I feel like I gotta play him.
Oh, yeah, I mean, he's still gonna get like 10 targets.
Yeah.
Snap count.
And Christian Watson's snap count definitely did not come back to bite you.
He definitely did. Well, he scored a touchdown. But the thing is, I can't be starting Cortland Sutton and Samaje Perine. So
That's true.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so we'll move on to our next matchup. It's Zach and Austin. Zach projected 108 to 99 winner. That is a 207.5 spread. Morgan, you were in numerous leagues with Austin, so you're usually familiar with Austin's how Austin feels about his fantasy team. So what do you have to think about this matchup?
You know what? I'm gonna take Austin. I think he's gonna get a big Jalen Hurts game, big Amon-Ra game, and Ayuk. I don't think McCaffrey's not gonna take 4 of the touchdowns this week. I think Ayuk could maybe even get 2. I'm gonna take Austin. I think he's had some bad injury breaks on his team. He's had some people question his trades. But I think he could pull out a sneaky win here against Zach. I think he's had some good games for these people, but some of these people are due to have some bad games. I think Austin's due. That's what I think.
Parker?
I'm hammering the over. Austin's getting healthy. The team's looking better. He could have pretty much a full lineup this week. We'll see about Saquon and Jonathan Taylor, but right now it's sort of trending towards Jonathan Taylor playing. And if that's the case, this team's going to be deep. It's a low total at 207. Zach's team's been explosive too. I think Zach will probably win, but Austin's got a decent chance to steal one here. But either way, I like a high scoring game. I'm taking the over.
Okay. I like Zach here. I'm gonna smash Zach. I think no pause. I think Amon-Ra is he's playing, but maybe somewhat limited by the ab injury. I hate Traylon Burks. I cannot emphasize how much I hate having to start him after
he doesn't have to start him this week.
What?
He won't play Traylon Burks this week. His projection is going to go up.
I don't know if Taylor plays. Maybe he plays Akers, but I don't think Taylor plays. I don't know if Saquon plays either. So yeah, so I'm gonna take Zach. Zach's receivers are just absurd. Doesn't have Keenan Allen, who has been probably
that was my only knock. If he had Keenan play, I probably would have picked him, but having played like Tyler Algier, you just never know what you're gonna get. The Texans have looked pretty good, so
I don't know. Tyler Algier gets work. Austin,
he does,
like I don't think, and this is really just under the premise. I don't know. I don't think Taylor or Saquon plays. So if neither of them plays, it's just tough for me to see the path for Austin. So I'm gonna hammer Zach in this matchup. Next is me. I am going against Thomas. 104 to 102 is the projected total again, or 104.8 to 102.6. So it's like a 207.4 projection. I just pick me every week. I think I'm gonna win. Big bounce back spot. This is the restarting the playoff streak here, and we can't be losing 2 in a row if that's gonna happen. Thomas is I'm without my quarterback, but Thomas is without Eckler and Mike Evans and Noah Fant and Josh Palmer. So Thomas just a tough bye week matchup for him, which was predictable because he's playing me. So I'm gonna take myself.
Yeah, no depth and 4 guys on bye. Can't pick Thomas. Obviously Anthony Richardson may just go nuts. But I guess Jamar sort of do, but things haven't really broken Thomas's way so far this year. I mean, well, I guess they have. He's 3-1. But in terms of the injury luck and Mike Evans now possibly being on the shelf for a little while with this bye week thing going against a really solid team. Yeah, I got you in a route to win and cover.
Yep. I also have you in it, Joe. It's hard to pick Thomas when he has 2 Bengals players and 2 Bears players. He's very, very limited on scoring. And yeah, it's just hard. I mean, I feel like Brian Robinson probably have a good game, but I think like him and Jamar, but like Tyler Boyd and Curtis Samuel, I can't really, trust. So
Got 3 Bengals in his lineup.
does he really?
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh
Yeah.
wait,
I was
oh,
like,
yeah,
yeah, well,
yeah.
T's not playing, so he's got both the other Bengals receivers.
And okay, yeah.
Then
Then I'll take it.
really,
Joe.
I'm the world's biggest. Who are they playing this week?
They're playing
The
the Cardinals. The
Cardinals.
Yeah,
Cardinals.
Cardinals. Oh, all right. Well,
I'm taking Joe.
yeah, John and Gannon, I believe.
I'm taking Joe by 20. And it's just that he's so limited on points. Like if the Bengals like have sucked like they've been doing, like he's just screwed.
Joe Burrow, go rest that.
Over
cat.
under 85
Rest that
points for
cat.
Thomas this week.
Under 85. I'm going under.
Go rest
I think
that.
he scores
cat,
82.
Joe. Come on. It is kind of surprising me. So Thomas is like, it's just shocking me that he's 3-1 and he's got the 5th most points against. Like I would have figured he just had awesome points against luck. But
I mean, he's been scoring points. I mean, it's just
scoring.
I'm actually surprised that he's projected 102.
It's just crazy with like how little he's gotten out of Eckler and Jamar this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll move on. Our final matchup of the week is Parker. Parker, as described in the group, one big mid off against or running back mid off against Ben. He's projected, or Ben actually projected to beat you 101 to 97. What are your thoughts here, Parker? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I got Rachaad White and Jerome Ford, who are also mid on bye. And maybe Cooper Kupp comes back, but if he doesn't, like Devontae Smith is far and away the best like non-quarterback starter in this game, which is sort of amusing in that there's just basically no good players on either team. Big mid off, but Ben's got Patrick Mahomes in a great matchup. Possibly Jaleel McLaughlin starting for him. So I feel good about Ben this week, which is fine. I'm 2-2. Kupp maybe just take the week off, come back next week. Obviously, I don't think I'm out of it yet, but yeah, I feel this one's going Ben's way.
Yeah, I'm also gonna take Ben. I think this is the type of matchup where you're gonna like barely miss the playoffs, and then you're gonna look back and see what you lost to Ben. And
yeah, I haven't won. I looked this up the other night. I haven't won 3 straight games since 2018. So it's been 5 years since I won 3 games in a row.
I mean, you just won with like 81 points. Like, what is the odds that happens to you twice in a row?
What I'm saying is, I just don't put streaks together. It's been 5 years since I won, and it's been 4 more games, which hopefully we're talking about next week. It's been since 2015. So haven't done that since we were sophomores in college. That's tough.
Listen, we're in agreement. Calvin Ridley, his target share is going down the toilet.
Yeah, hopefully he bets on this one.
Yeah, so that's your.
I need him motivated.
Yeah, so it's tough look. Cortland Sutton going up against the Jets defense, tough. So yeah, I'm gonna take Ben here, and you're gonna like be freaking out on the podcast next week.
I think you know what? I'm taking Parker. You basically have a wash at quarterback. Both the quarterbacks are good. It was always Raheem. He's due for another big game. Najee, like I said, is the slowest running back I've ever watched in my life. So there's just I refuse to believe the stats Austin gives me with like the big like 50-yard. I don't believe it. I've never seen it. Any game I watch with the Steelers, he goes like he gets like negative yards. I just don't believe it. And then yeah, I mean everything else he has kind of a mid off, but I think you can maybe pull out like a Christian Watson touchdown. Maybe Zay Flowers finally gets in. I'm gonna pick you. I mean, I think it's gonna be 80-point matchup between the two of you. Realistically, I don't even know how Ben's projected 101 with this lineup. It's like crazy. When I look at this lineup and then look at mine, it's like, how am I projected less? But it's because I guess the rest of my my running back too is what, Tyjae Spears.
Well, the ESPN, the way the projections work are kind of odd. Like they give a lot of guys like 8 to 10 points. Like they're not going to project anybody for like less than that you'd realistically be starting, unless I guess
No,
it's like Thomas.
It's
So
like Tyjae Spears. He's like every week spending like 8 points. I'm like, he hasn't scored 8 points one time. Like, what are you talking about?
the floors on ESPN projections are weirdly high.
Yeah, Broncos Jets, huge game to watch in this matchup. Both Broncos running backs facing off against each other. Plus Parker also has Cortland Sutton. So goal line opportunities. Look out for those. That'll be big.
Yeah, this Jaleel McLaughlin, Samaje Perine split will be important
Yeah.
for this game.
I mean, honestly, like I'm excited. I have to watch the game too because I'm Justin Fields. I don't think
I kind of think Javonte Williams is going to play, low key.
That would be a huge help for Ben. So yeah, so that's projections. I feel like we were or the predictions that I feel like we were pretty different on those. Parker complains that I go first and I take all the obvious picks, but I think the three of us varied a lot. I think we each had like our own unique over under and went head to head on a few. So that is the prediction for this week. And yeah, so join us next week back on the podcast. Morgan, thank you for joining this week. And yeah, best of luck to everybody in week 5.